Welcome everybody and welcome Brandon Eshek from Melbourne, Australia. And we are going to talk about today business risk, cybersecurity, digital transformation, all sorts of stuff. And Brandon, you're an all-around good guy, including you're a business evangelist, technology evangelist, cybersecurity expert, all of this. I do have this big problem, Brandon, to think about. I'm reading cybersecurity attacks all the time, and my friends are saying, don't even bother that because everybody's like can access your information anyhow, or just I try to grow our business, and I kind of don't know where to put our energy and money when it comes to digital transformation and related risks. So please help us and the audience to demystify this problem for us.
Well, first and foremost, thanks for inviting me on, mate. Pleasure to be here. You're 100% correct and spot on. We like to think that we're in the information age at the moment, but I like to think that we're in the disinformation age because there's almost as much disinformation as there is information. Yeah. And you cannot sneeze and not hear the term cybersecurity, whether it's someone talking about an attack or a compromise or a data breach, or whether it's vendors spruiking their products and trying to get you to do the latest thing. The problem, I guess, is there is a lot of misinformation in and around cybersecurity. If I had to kind of give you one pro tip, and the best way to approach it is you've got to take a risk-based approach. Every organization's risk from cybersecurity is different, and you've got to look at what the risk is to you and formulate a plan to protect your information. We don't have to defend everything. Your marketing data is probably not super important if that was to be out in the internet. It's mostly public knowledge anyway, but your finances probably do.
So basically, that's a good kickstart. This whole thing is that it's not really a cybersecurity. What is the issue here is the business risk, which is basically coming as we get more system, more device, more people, more interaction, working from home, cloud services. So the complexity goes up tremendously, and that's just the surface of our organization has more like digital stuff, right?
Absolutely. And then you throw digital transformation in on there, and that just compounds the problem. The more systems and the more locations we store our information, the more places we need to defend. Often I see clients do digital transformation projects, and often they failed digital transformation projects, and they have moved data from system A to system B. And I'll just give you a really quick example. I had a client that wanted to move all of their data from their old server, and they wanted to get it into the cloud. And that was their digital transformation project goal. There was no DX discovery. There was no thought or planning. They just lifted the information one day and stuck it in the cloud because they thought it would be more secure. And they didn't realize that by doing that, they exposed all of their confidential information to everyone in the organization. So all of a sudden, everyone knew everyone's employment agreements and salaries and business financial information because it wasn't a planned and staged approach. But going back to your first point, absolutely, the risk from cyber attack is exponentially higher than it used to be. And a large reason for that is because of the proliferation and explosion in amount of apps that we're using.
And one more thing, it's really interesting. You said it's digital transformation or digital evolution or digitalization, whatever we call this. It's basically, it's not like a static environment we can protect, like my home, which is not changing really. We don't have a new window. We don't have a new, door or something like that. But as you said, this transformation actually creating a lot of new stuff, which we just kind of forget to put the bars or something like that. It's really interesting because that's basically not like a how to say, like a cyber security project and solve it and check the box and that's it. Because that's what,
Yeah.
if you see LinkedIn, if you see Facebook, it's just all the products and all these, random stuff for cybersecurity is coming, and like, it's just super overwhelming. So how?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, mate. My that's one of my pet hates. And I think that's a bit of, I think it's our fault as technologists, a little bit as well, the way we approach it and the conversations we have with clients. But my very first question to any client that talks to me, and we deal with clients of all sizes from, 30 users up to 3,000 users. And the very first question I have whenever there's a cybersecurity project, what's the business problem? What are we trying to solve? What is the risk? Because you only need cybersecurity projects when you're trying to protect company assets, organizational assets. So once you've identified what that asset is that you're trying to protect and you understand the risk, so the risk might be, we're going to, we're going to move our information and put it into SharePoint. Okay, fantastic. So what are the risks with doing that? Well, when we put that information in SharePoint, users can access it and create a sharing link. Okay, what is the risk of creating a sharing link? Well, that link can be sent to anybody, and all of a sudden anyone can access some of the data that's in that SharePoint site. So then you've got to go back and say, okay, well, what's one of the controls? How do we mitigate that risk? And it may not be buying cybersecurity products. It may just be, oh, well, in Office 365 in SharePoint, you can disable sharing links for the finance team. Or you can disable external sharing links for the finance team. So the finance team can share the information between them, but they can't share it externally to others. All I'm saying is we tend to approach cybersecurity from you must have these products, all these new cybersecurity tools. You must have this and this and this and this, firewall and antivirus and an MFA and data loss prevention and records management systems and compliance. Instead of going, hang on a second, what are the threats and the risks to our organization? And what do we need to do to minimize those threats and risks to an acceptable level for your organization? Because your propensity for risk and your risk appetite is different to mine.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective, because I talk to business owners like day in, day out, and they don't, like, some of them like seem to be not concerned at all. Like they have this, not saying false sense of security, but my IT guy is like good. We purchased this firewall or whatever. And they are kind of happy with that. And I'm not saying laughing on these, losers who get cyber attack or something like that, but he's not really associated to being at risk at all.
Yep. Some of that comes from a lack of understanding or a lack of awareness. So some organizations don't know what they don't know. So they don't know that by doing X, Y, Z, moving your information into Teams or SharePoint or something like that. And I'm not just picking on Teams, SharePoint, and Microsoft products, by the way. It can be any system, Google, Dropbox, whatever. But sometimes they don't understand that there's a risk there. And that's why the risk-based approach is so important, because it's about having a business conversation with your senior management and your executives and boards and leadership, so that we're informing them of the risks so they can make an informed decision about what to do about it. But if they don't know about the risk, then they can't formulate a plan or do anything about it because they didn't know that it exists. And that goes into our whole sense of false sense of security. And going back to that story I said before, I had a client that moved all of their data from their old server in their office, and they put it into the cloud. And when they engaged us because their digital transformation project failed, and when they engaged us, and I was just talking at a general level with their senior leadership, I said, well, what was the driver? What was the business objective for doing that? And they said, oh, well, we're an organization in Australia. We have to comply with this framework called Protective Security Policy Framework. And we looked at the cloud, and the cloud has ISO 27001. So by moving our information from our old server into the cloud, we're now compliant with our protective security policy framework requirements. And that was just a complete misconception and absolute false sense of security. The board thought and perceived their information was now totally secure and they were compliant with this piece of compliance framework that they needed, when in actual fact, first and foremost, it exposed them to more risk because they didn't manage the digital transformation project. And so everyone was able to access all the information from the entire company internally. And then on top of that, it didn't actually meet the objective. They weren't compliant with PSPF just because Microsoft's cloud data center or Amazon's cloud data center is ISO 27001. If you've got a compliance requirement, you've got to do your own audit and you've got to structure your system and architect your system and design your system in a way that meets those objectives.
Brandon, I have an interesting thought, because you were saying that is a senior leadership, right? And that was the team, the technology team, whatever it's like outsourced or an in-house, we actually deploy this whole system. But there is a chance like this is something was missing from translation there, because like the IT team just did it. Hey guys, you wanted to have, like we shipped it, no problem. And the other team is like, hey, like it. I'm feeling something is missing from here to everybody's like marching a direction without actually knowing like that's like a cliff there, right? Like everybody's happy and like what's going on here?
Look, more often than not, digital transformation projects are pushed to the technology team to deliver. And to be fair, same as cybersecurity, the board or the executive leadership or, the business owner hears a story in the news. We're going back to your point before. There's lots of information out there. Someone gets hacked. Business owner, board, leadership, whatever, they go, oh, well, could that happen to us? And then the IT guy says, oh, yeah, absolutely, that could happen to us. And then they say, okay, great. What do we do about it? And they go, oh, well, you need to put this firewall in or this antivirus in or this. Same with technology, digital transformation. Your organization sees your competitor being more effective. And let's just take a really basic example. Your information is on your server in the office, so you've got to go to the office to access your information. But your competitor's information is in the cloud, so they can access it from wherever they are. So it means that their sales team are more productive and more effective because they're out on the road every day. They don't have to come back to the office to fill in their CRM notes or something. So again, the leadership, the board, etc., they go back to the tech team and say, hey, we want to get our information in the cloud so that our salespeople can be on the road. What's missing is that digital transformation strategy. Having a plan of, okay, we understand the business objective here. We want to have mobility, agility. We want our users to be unshackled from our office. We want our team to be spending more time doing human work. We want them talking to our clients because that's when they're most productive. So how do we enable our team to be more mobile at the same time, maintaining a level of security across our information, and then going down and saying, okay, so now we understand at a digital transformation point of view why we're doing the project. Now let's map out a strategy. Let's do a DX discovery process. What's going to be involved in this project? Who needs to be involved? What information is there? What applications? What systems can we use? Evaluate those systems and build out a strategy in a managed process, following a framework. And I think that's, again, that's one of the other big things that's missing. Organizations, and it's not the tech team's fault or the IT team's fault. They're not digital transformation consultants. They don't have any education. They don't know what they don't know. They're doing what they feel is best for the organization. It's not malicious. They just don't have the education of having a solid digital transformation framework to deliver those projects.
It's really interesting. I'm just thinking out loud here that you are talking about something like digital transformation or digital evolution strategy or some kind of concept, some type of written material to govern these like changes, like new window here, new door there, kind of thing, where we are going to make changes. And a little bit of like being a devil's advocate, like we are thinking about like a 40, 50 people, small business, the owner is working over the weekends. Like, it's like this is a real, kind of entrepreneur, and really, do you think they do need that type of extra layer on top of their organization, or this is for enterprise and mid-market only?
Absolutely. If anything, it's the smaller organizations that need it more than the larger ones, because the larger organizations, the enterprises, they generally have change management officers. They've got CIOs, CISOs, they've got legal counsels, they've got more structure and more people involved. That's not to say that they have experience in digital transformation processes and frameworks and so forth. So often for larger organizations, we take a more consultative based engagement with them. We're on their steering committees, we're on their review committees and so forth, and we're helping guide and run that process. Whereas smaller organizations, we take a more active role. We're not just providing that leadership and that strategy, but we're also getting involved in actual delivery of the process.
Oh yeah, because that's what I try to ask, because like generating papers for these companies are like not really the best approach, or they don't really value. They value somebody is coming and solving it, and they are good kind of thing. So, question to you, like obviously these companies already in a situation like, I have my home, I have 5 new windows here, right? And like, oh, I realized that something was missing, and I have a good IT guy. They did what they had to do. Like, is it a way to go back and kind of do something with it, or how to make sure that like we don't have any digital transformation project right now, but somehow make sure that's going to be what we have is safe, or we are mitigating the risk. What do you think, or what do you advise people having this problem?
So first and foremost, I would say that it's very difficult to retrofit security into your digital transformation projects. So much like everything in life, prevention is better than cure, right? If you can prevent the issue from occurring from the start, and you do that by going through the security requirements for your information and planning out your digital transformation project at the start. So before you go through and start doing the work, identify your system and data owners. What applications does your organization use? Which users and departments are responsible or use those systems? What information is in those systems? How much of that information is confidential and requires protection? And then you map out who needs access to it. Once you've got all that, you can then use that information to structure and build out your design of your new environment, your digitally transformed environment. And then putting a strategy and a structure and a framework around actually delivering that process. If you've already gone through a digital transformation and you're concerned, of course, there is audits that you can do to identify where you may be exposed. And we certainly can help with that. But going back and repeating the process I just spoke about on your existing digitally transformed environment. So where have we put the information? Who's got access to that information? Who needs access to that information? And what parts of that information is actually confidential? Remembering that only in general, at a very high level, only 20% of your information typically is super duper confidential, highly sensitive, needs to be protected, right? And I'm talking about the information where I said, hey, Danish, if this information was to get out into the public domain, what is the impact to your organization? A lot of it, you'll be like, look, it won't be great, but it's not going to end my business. But there's 20% of it where you'd be like, geez, if that were to get out, that's our secret sauce. That's our, the thing that makes us unique. That's it, my business is over. So start there would be my advice as well. Don't try, like you were mentioning before, these projects and these problems can seem very big. And that whole concept of how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one piece at a time. Take your super duper, really sensitive information first and go and audit that. Who's got access to it? Should they have access to it? Where does it live? How are we securing it and controlling it? And then once you've done that and everyone's comfortable and happy, then move to the next most sensitive information. And if you continually do that over time, you'll constantly improve your security posture of your information assets.
Yeah, and
but generally, sorry.
That's an interesting part, because like there's a joke like the two guy in the jungle, and the tiger is coming, and one of them start, getting their like his shoes up, and the other asking, "Hey, the tiger is faster than us. No, I just have to be faster than you." I'm trying to see that it's reminding me that you just don't want to be the easy target. You want to be
Correct.
making sure that, don't bother this organization. There are hundreds of others are so much easier to go in or hurt or something like that. So I understand that it's not easy, but can be done, and like retrospectively retrofit this problem. But moving ahead a little bit, and for those audience who wanna like be more proactive, like what is the process you advise for an average 40-50 people organization when next they do any type of digital transformation project, like team or the collaboration or any type of process management or any reporting or whatever their business needs to get more or improve their business processes?
With any, if you're undertaking any digital transformation project, and that is a buzzword, any evolution, any change of a system, effectively, when you're dealing with business product problems, and this is, I think, one of the key messages for today, there is no digital transformation project, there is no cybersecurity project. Everything is about solving business problems. Why do you do a digital transformation project? You do it because there's an organizational issue that you're trying to solve, or because your competitor has done something which is making them more effective, productive, efficient, and making them more competitive, and you're trying to play catch up. But whatever reason you're doing the undertaking the project, first step is to identify the business goal. Why are we doing it? How are we going to measure success? What does the final outcome look like? When we do this project, our team is going to be more effective because they're going to be able to do 8 meetings a day instead of 6, because they don't have to spend 2 hours in the office inputting data into a CRM. We're going to move to Teams, and it's going to make our organization more agile and mobile, and that's going to support our work from home, which is going to allow us to operate during lockdowns through COVID, for example.
Yeah.
Once you've identified that, then you've got to go through a mature digital transformation process. Get onto the digital maturity group. There's plenty of information, infographics, explainer videos, and so forth, if you want to try and do it yourself. Obviously, we would highly recommend you leverage one of the digital transformation consultants, because we've got experience in taking and guiding you through that process. But you've got to use a structured process. You never do anything first. We don't train a brain surgeon and then go to the brain surgeon and go, okay, great, you've done all your studying, you're now a certified brain surgeon, off you go do some brain surgery. It's just not how it works, because what they're doing is so sensitive, and it's got such implications for the life of the patient, that you've got to go through 5, 6, 7 years of being an understudy and working with a more seasoned, more senior brain surgeon. And, I'm not going to call it practice, but you get the experience, you build your experience over time, you do different procedures, and you build up to doing the entire thing end to end. And that is much the same as our digital transformation consultants. We have done this process numerous times. We understand the framework, we understand the common issues, and if you're wanting to do it yourself, engage one of them to guide you through it. You'll get a much better outcome, because like anything, the first time you do it, you always make plenty of mistakes, and we're there to help you help you avoid those.
It's really interesting what you're saying, because many times, like what I seen, you guys are working, you many times just be between the executives and the well-working IT teams, and just asking a couple of things from the executives and translate things to back and forth, because it's basically this layer which is missing from the executive layer and the technology layer to fill this gap. And my question, because we get to the end of the time, is can you just like explain this whole thing as a bumper sticker for me, like, because we gone through so many stuff, and my big takeaway today is this, like, thinking my home, and we are not having new windows every day, but having like the organization. I don't see that. I haven't seen our organizations that actually it's like a house which is always changing, and that's a big aha moment for me.
Yeah, I think a couple of key points. So first and foremost, digital transformation, cyber, these types of initiatives, they're constant gradual improvement projects. You're never finished digitally transforming. It's a constant evolution. Much the same as with cybersecurity, you're never secure. Right? You're just consistently analyzing risk, mitigating risk, and the risk landscape changes. So you're constantly trying. The attackers do something, we do something. If the attackers do something else, we put some other defense in place. So first and foremost, see them as constant gradual improvement processes. Second is speak to professionals and don't believe everything you read, especially on LinkedIn. There is a lot of misinformation out there, and there's just a lot of bad advice. And again, no one is being malicious. Their intent is not to misguide people. It's just that everyone is providing advice based on the information they have, and not everyone is qualified. Not everybody has a mature framework. Not everyone has experience in doing it. So you want to engage experts and engage professionals to help you understand what you need and why. Number three would absolutely be, you've got to understand the business objective. There's not technology or cybersecurity or digital transformation for digital transformation's sake. It's how is this initiative going to deliver value to the organization? What's the business problem it's solving? How are we going to measure success? And then number four, in anything you do, in any initiative, please look at the security implications ahead of time. Spending a day, an hour, 5 days at the start of the project to understand the implications from a security point of view, and making sure you've got the correct information to go and develop your new solution or your new environment or digitally transform in a safe and secure way will save you countless hours later. It reduces your risk, but also more importantly, it helps with change management. Users hate change when it impacts their productivity. So if we go and do a digital transformation, lift all the information and move it over there, and then all of a sudden we're teaching all the users, okay, this is how you access our information, and then, oh, damn, we've got a cybersecurity problem here. So then we go and change the system so that we can secure the information, and now the users have got to access it a different way. Now we've impacted those people twice. The first initial change, and then the second change. That creates frustration. It creates barriers. It's going to have people going, oh, that project was no good. This new system is harder to use. You want to eliminate all that. And you can do that by making sure you plan your digital transformation projects, consider your security implications at the start, and make sure that you can articulate why your organization is doing the project.
And that's awesome. And I know you guys are doing a lot of like help for organizations ahead for digital transformation, and more likely the digital maturity assessment, which is basically a benchmark to collect data from different size and shape organization to be able to compare. Can you explain to the audience like what it does, how you go through, because Digital Maturity Group is funding that for the advisors, so you guys can run and get paid to do that for free for most of these potential clients. Like how you are, or where you see that's heading, or what benefits you see that the clients are getting from that.
If I had to pick one thing, Danish, it's making informed decisions. Once we go through a digital maturity assessment with a client, they're asking more questions of themselves than they did. So before they thought, yep, this is the project I wanted to do, and this is what I needed, and this is why. And then we go through this digital maturity assessment and we start asking questions. What's the business problem? We start talking to all of the various different stakeholders in the organization, senior leaders, etc., asking what their problems are. You then start questioning the solution. Is Teams the right one? Is SharePoint the right one? Is it Dropbox? And as you start to go through the framework and ask these probing questions, then that creates awareness. So they didn't know what they didn't know before, and now they know what's possible, and that helps them make better decisions. And often I've seen lots of outcomes. I've seen people that just don't do that digital transformation project at all because it was just the complete wrong approach to solve their business problem. I've seen them change well, to be honest, more often than not, they actually don't have the business problem defined. So helping them understand what the problem is, and help them understand what success looks like, that helps them really narrow the focus and the scope of the project. So it means it gets delivered on time, on budget, and often a lot faster than they anticipated, because it's not this big project anymore. It's just this little project, because this little project is really what's going to solve the business pain point. Yes, we've got to do all these other bits and pieces, and that would be fantastic. But right now, for where the organization is and the problems they have, this thing gives you the quick win. This is what gives you, actual real world tangible value to your project.
It's interesting is what you are doing, Brandon. You are pulling them from the weeds and give them this kind of 30,000 foot level view to actually see that, okay, the strategy, the digital transformation strategy, which is missing. Because if they see this whole thing from the perspective of the business problem and the stakeholders, they just realize like a lot of stuff into that, not just have this technology and run with it. That's really good. Brandon, thank you very much, and thanks for all of your work and wisdom here today. Like again, even I'm involved with this digital maturity group for a while. I'm still like learning from you guys. Crazy how much you get these projects, and it's just amazing work you guys doing, and that how much you pay forward to these organizations and working for them to understand what's need for success. So again, thank you very much for today.